Hey guys, thanks for joining me, and if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. This video is a big idea I have. I recently it's made up of several different parts. First off, this is the TJ Schwarz Overland, which is a great fixed blade for the kitchen. I've had this for a couple of years now. Basically, it was my second ever MagnaCut knife. I love it. I love the design. It took me a long time to actually get it. At the time, Nick Chabez had done a review of it, and it just was sold out for a really long time, and then I finally got one. You can kind of customize and get the different parts to it. So part number one to this is I'm going to do a re-review of this because I've had this knife now for several years, and I've used it extensively. Part number two is talking about MagnaCut. I saw Survival Knives videos on Instagram talking about how he's gotten into a dispute with Niagara, who makes CPM MagnaCut. This is also made out of CPM MagnaCut. Some people have noticed different things about rusting with MagnaCut, or inclusions, or voids, and different things like that. So that's the two different parts of this video, okay? So first off, the review of this knife. I think it's still a banger. I love it a lot. After long use, I think that I wish that this little choil area was just a little bit bigger, but it's not the end of the world because 9 times out of 10, I'm using like this on a flat surface. It's like a chef knife for the, the camp. And I've taken this camping every time I've gone camping in the last 2 years, which has been about 20 times. I've taken this knife with me and it's been out in the rain and all that good stuff. Having said that, when I first had it, one of the very first nights I had it, or, within the first month I had it, I left it on the side with some water or something on it, and it did patina a little bit. MagnaCut is not rust proof. Here, can you see that right there? And in my review, I mentioned this. TJ reached out to me and very kindly said, "Hey, I'll take that back for you. I know exactly what the problem was. It was the finish." All right, so what I just said there, awesome customer relations support. Thank you so much, TJ. I never took him up on his offer. It didn't bother me so much, and it really washed off, and nothing has happened there. So I'm going to talk about what possibly he could have meant by the finish wasn't done quite right, and now he's corrected that problem. And I'm also going to talk about the MagnaCut controversy going on right now, but I'm going to talk about that in the second half of the video. I'm just going to finish up talking about the Overland. This sandwich style Kyvex comes with it. Very nice. I like it a lot. I've obviously used it a lot. You'll also see, and I'll reference this again later in the video, that my ulti clip is rusted. And that's because I have used the crap out of this on the water. But the knife is not rusted. The problem that I had the very first couple of times with this patinaing, which I don't really care about, honestly, never came back. It only happened the very first time. So I'm glad I never sent it back to him. The contouring of this scale is great. I like this OG color. He also has orange and a couple of other colors. Like I said, you get to pick. I like how the knife is slightly proud around the edges here. It's not jimpy necessarily, but it makes you feel like this knife is well in hand. And it's nice and thick in the hand. It fits there. And for any kind of cutting chores that you're doing, it works totally fine, right? It's going to act as a chef's knife. Now, I looked through my log. I actually have a log for my KME sharpener, and I looked through my log, and I have never sharpened this knife. I keep track of the date I sharpened something, the degree I found it at, and the degree I might have changed it to, so that when I come back to sharpen that again, I will know what is going on and if I want to change something depending on how the knife performed. Never sharpened this, and it's still sharp. I just tested it upstairs and it was cutting paper. At one point, after several camping trips, it was getting kind of dull, and I stropped it really, really, really well. I think I might have even used a very nice diamond steel that I have very lightly, and then I stropped it, and it's back up to razor sharp. MagnaCut, when treated well, I think does a superb job of stropping and easy to keep sharp for a long time, as long as you don't abuse it and try to cut staples. So yeah, I really like TJ's little symbol there. Very cool. This is going to be linked down below in the description. And my original review has already popped up in the info up there. So if you go back to the beginning of the video, you can go back to my original review for this. So really cool. All right, so still a banger. Love this knife. Awesome, 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 great design. If you camp and you cook, you need this in your kitchen. It is awesome. And I keep it in my kitchen as well for non-camping trips. But honestly, I use it almost every single camping trip, and that's mainly how I use it. Yeah, I just love the shape, the concept, everything about it. Love this big jimping. I love how it's rounded on the blade. I love the thickness of the blade, thin behind, nice, tall, good geometry. Just great, great knife. Okay, so moving on to the second part of this. I have never taken the scales off of this. So I'm going to take the scales off of this. And while I take the scales off of this, I'm going to talk about what I was talking about, that controversy. So this is free spinning, which I knew that was going to happen. It's not locking. And this isn't mechanically sealed either, which I think is good. You know, things like Bark River knives and LT Wright, they're all mechanically sealed. You can never really open it up and look inside. Now, what the guys over at Survival Knife were finding with their MagnaCut was a lot of inclusions and carbides that hadn't been mixed properly. So you were getting these marks on top of the blade and voids. And he was sanding down, and he got into this basically this fight with a lawyer and the people over there. And in fact, Larry and Thomas, Niagara, have both blocked him on Instagram. I'm not saying who's right or wrong. It does seem like he has a case for the fact that he either got a bad batch or something's going on. And I think that the people at Niagara should just help out a small maker. There's 5 guys on his team. They work here in the United States, and he had a lot of projects waiting to go. And so taking a big hit like that financially, he just couldn't do that because, you know, when you buy all that steel for big projects, you know, it just makes it really impossible. Like that can wipe you out if you get a bad batch of steel. Don't know what's going on there. I do know that some people don't necessarily like MagnaCut. And I think that there's always naysayers out there. I personally have a lot of MagnaCut. And I have seen and heard of people saying that if the finish isn't done right, it can have a problem. What does that mean? Well, if you end up leaving if you finish it in such a way that you put micro holes in the steel, anything that collects in there can eventually rust it. This is rust resistant. It's not rust proof, okay? So you need to be careful about that. You need to make sure you clean it out. Another thing that can happen is that when someone's finishing a knife, if they don't change their belts while they're grinding knives, if you have a rust-resistant knife and then you end up using a belt that you used last time on a non-rust-resistant steel, you end up getting pitting and marking and stuff like that. I don't think that TJ ever made that problem. And I don't think, honestly, that Survive Knives did either. I think that they know what they're talking about. So, yeah. So I'm opening this up, just curious to see. Nice amount of oil there. And here, I think in my first video, I kind of knocked him for saying, hey, why didn't you have MagnaCut on the blade somewhere? I mean, it's a new steel and everything. And he told me in one of the comments he made on one of my videos, it's underneath the scale. And there it is. First time I'm taking it off. So I do see a little bit of rusting here. Just a little bit. And this other side, again, I see a little bit of corrosion. So there is some oil under there, but that oil gets washed away, dried out, whatever. So it's a good idea if you don't have a knife that's chemically bonded to the blade, a fixed blade, that you open this up and clean it out. And like I said, MagnaCut is just resistant. It happens to be more resistant than other steels, but even something like LC200N, H5, or Vanek Super Clean, they will rust eventually. They're not rust proof, especially if you use something like if you leave on it certain corrosive elements, it will rust even faster. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean this up. And I'm going to put it back together again. And when I put it back together again, underneath this scale, I'm going to go ahead and clean off this old oil. And I'm going to use some, frog lube paste. So I'm going to use a little bit of that on here. So I'm going to clean this up. And at the end, I'm going to have some final thoughts for you. So we're going to engage in warp mode. Warp mode, engage. So one of the things that I really liked about TJ's response on my last thing was that he basically said, you know, I think I made a mistake and I know how to fix it. Send it back for free and I will fix it. You know, I didn't do that. And I'm glad I didn't, because this kind of was like a long-term test. Underneath those scales, he had oiled it nicely, and there was a little bit of corrosion there, but nothing unexpected for any kind of knife that you're going to be using a lot. While I was putting this together too, I used a frog loop like I talked about, and that has a nice minty smell to it. So that's a bonus too, is that for a little while my knife will smell nice. I'm tightening these guys up, and you will see that some frog lube has now come out on those spacers. So I just need to wipe this down. We should be good to go. That will create a seal between the G10 and my tang, and then I won't, you know, it'll keep it from rusting. So that's good. But like I said, I think this is a great knife, and I think you should definitely own it. The other things that you can do on a knife, that's any knife really, is use something called Knife Shield, which is a spray that you put on steel to seal it up a little bit. You can use that on stainless steels or D2 especially, or anything that's not necessarily totally corrosive resistant. And it will put a protective shield, like the name implies, on it. There's a link down below. Anything that's on Amazon that's linked in my videos, it helps the channel if you use that link, but you know, you don't have to do that. I'm just letting you know. Anything that's not Amazon, I am not getting paid a cent for. I'm just providing this stuff for you for links in case you want to see it. So I'm going to put some knife shield on here too, just for, you know, giggles. Yeah, and we should be good to go. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I think this is a good knife. I think that I don't know what to make of the MagnaCut Niagara CPM debate. Go over to Survival Knives on Instagram and look at those videos. Some interesting content. I personally like Laren a lot, and he does not work for Niagara. He sold them the formula and everyone else. Boimler makes this. A bunch of other people make MagnaCut. So this is we're only talking about Niagara. So I just want to be clear about that. I don't have a real opinion, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know the whole story, but I just think it's interesting to think about and to talk about. Thanks so much. Please like and subscribe. If you would like to win a knife, all you got to do is click the down below, click the support, or go to my Patreon link in the description, and you too get entered to win a knife every month. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.